Well, yeah, John, I don't know if you wanted to chat with folks real quick to just kind of, let them know how we came together and how we, put this really exciting event here together, and maybe give them a sense for what we're going to talk about, and then I can dive right into it because it's a lot of great information, and want to respect everybody's time here.
Sure, sure. So I think I was thinking about it today. We actually met through a mutual friend of ours who is also in the business of scaling businesses.
Right.
Anyway, she introduced Wally as a conversion expert just for online businesses, so for e-commerce companies, for information, all sorts of different companies. We spoke, hit it off, and now we've been referring clients to each other, and it's been great. And out of the blue, about I think it was a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that you had this webinar that you were doing on the topics that we're going to talk about. I thought that'd be a great fit for the people in the audiences and the sort of just the people that I've built up over the last years, and help some people basically scale bigger businesses, get more of the time freedom and all those benefits that are the reason we start the business in the first place, but somewhere along the line we start to feel like we have a job. So getting back to that dream. So anyway, so you're an author, speaker, marketer. You're an expert in scaling, so whether we talk about info, e-commerce, and unbeknownst, this actually surprised me, you're actually a great email copywriter, which I think is really cool, because you get the best of both worlds. You've got the copywriting, email copy side of things, so you're nitty-gritty, and then you've also got this higher level strategy of building businesses and selling them. And just as proof of that, for everyone who's listening, Wally actually wrote the emails that I was sending out. Usually I would change them. I've had emails from other people before when we're promoting a webinar or something like this, and I always use I rarely use their emails because they're usually pretty terrible for match. But in this case, Wally's emails were great. So now you're a private investor in multiple companies.
Mm-hmm.
You operate a bunch of different companies, and you're a seasoned advisor as well. So you do a bunch of stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. Those compliments are awesome and always appreciated, of course. And yeah, it's great to be here with you. And I love business. I love entrepreneurs, and I love helping entrepreneurs. And it just this just excites me, and so I'm really excited for everybody who's on here today, and really excited that we were able to get this together. Because there's a lot of different ways you can play the game, and kind of as you said, you can go up way high up into the strategy side of things, and then you can dive real deep into the nitty-gritty of whether it's email copywriting or conversion or investing and stuff like that. And the cool thing is wherever you are is where you are, and it's really all about finding people who you resonate with, finding folks who are doing it right and have something that you're looking to do. And so I thought this would be very valuable, because I know there's a lot of folks out there who are they're in business to simply triple their wealth creation. They're looking to build their current business but do a lot better monetarily. And then there's a lot more folks who are looking to really evolve beyond more of the serial model, which is just doing one business, then another business, and another business. But what if you could do multiple businesses at the same time? And that's the adventure I've been on, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you a little bit about how I've done it and how you can too. And then, of course, one of the holy grails that a lot of folks talk about is how you can exit your business in the next 3 to 5 years. And I like to I'll share a story with you here in a little bit about a guy who did that, and just how calm he was, and what he walked into the room like he knew something that nobody else in the room knew. And the fact was he did, because he had just had a giant liquidity event, and he was basically retired if he chose to be. And then, of course, what does that result in? That's financial freedom and time freedom and stuff like that. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you here today is really how to take the expertise and talents that you already have. And if you're on this call with John, I guarantee that you have lots of expertise and talents, because I know the types of folks that he attracts and the types of folks that work with him, and share with you a genius model of taking your own expertise and talents and creating infinite leverage out of it. And I always like to think back to the old days, and I'm talking the Greek old days of Archimedes, and he talked about math, and give me a place to stand and I will move the earth. And so the whole idea was that with a long enough stick, even you could move the earth just by pushing your pinky down, and something as heavy as an entire planet would move. And that's really the power of leverage. And of course, that's what we want to talk about, right? Because to be able to effortlessly move something gigantic, to effortlessly move through your life and effortlessly get to where you're trying to go, that's really what it's all about. And so today we'll be going through the genius model, as I like to call it, that takes you from serial entrepreneur into parallel entrepreneurialism, helps you 3 times your wealth creation, helps you build the business you're already building. It shows you, I'm going to share with you how to exit your business in the next 3 to 5 years if you choose to do such a thing. And there's probably a lot of baby boomers on this line just based on the math of demographics right now. And I know for a fact that out of the 1 out of 10 baby boomers who have businesses right now, only 1 out of 10 of those 1 out of 10 are going to be able to exit. So it's actually a pretty rare thing, and I'll show you why, and I'll show you how you can make sure that you're on the right side of those numbers. And you do that correctly, I'll show you how to gain your financial freedom, your time freedom. You'll have options. And as I was just speaking to, I want you to avoid the fate of the 90% of entrepreneurs and join the fortunate 2%. And if you want to retire early or maybe on time or maybe never retire, but it's important to have options. And so if you're a growth-oriented entrepreneur, if you feel time-strapped or you feel like you could do more in your business, or maybe you feel like you could make a bigger impact in the world, maybe you're just looking for some headspace, right? Give me a place to think once in a while. This is going to be really great for you. If you're in any of these parts of the cycle, I've got something for you here today. So whether you're in seed mode, startup mode, growth mode, you're established with your company, you're expanding, you're mature, you're looking to exit, there's going to be some things for you as we go along here. And John gave me a very generous introduction, and I really appreciate that. And this is basically who I am. Some people call me an internet marketing legend. I'm a little shy, and I think that's kind of silly, but I do play a character on the internet known as Wally the Web Guy. And my entire career has been a combination of taking marketing, technology, and mergers and acquisitions and figuring out how to help shepherd my own businesses and other people's businesses through that process. And so drive demand and automate things and then create something of value and then create a big event for everybody. And so if you go on Amazon, you'll find me. I'm an author. I'm CEO and operator of multiple businesses, always taking a continuing approach. Peter Drucker talks about what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets improved. And I'm a private investor in multiple companies. And my mission is to help 1,000 entrepreneurs dominate their markets using the internet, just like you guys. And for what it's worth, I'm a family guy and I love to ski. Now I'm going to introduce you to somebody here, and he's not going to be on the line with me, but this guy is a partner in crime and kind of important to the whole thing that I'm going to share with you here. And this is a guy named Jason Myers, and he's a little bit further along than I am, and quite frankly, than most business people you're going to come across. This is a guy who has provided many millions of dollars for projects. He has 75 angel investor friends who are also my friends, and he has a group called Exo Collective that owns a diverse portfolio with stakes in 17 companies. And I'm going to share with that a little bit about that with you as we go along here. And he was playing the game that I'm playing about 15 years prior to me playing it. And so we hooked up a few years ago, and it's just been a really exciting power team. And that's why I'm introducing you to him, because you can see here there's some gravity behind the stuff that I'm going to share with you. And this is all proven real-world stuff. Here's a guy who did his first profitable internet startup in 1997. I was building web pages and servers back then. So he was building businesses. I was still on the web page and server level. Recently, he created a Inc. 500 up to 272 company and sold it to a public company, and has started, bought, or invested in, and then exited 21 companies and counting. And so Jason's thing is about traveling around, loves to fly around and drive fast cars, but really giving back through entrepreneurial events. And so the whole question when you have your business here is, scale up to scale out. How do we build our business in a way so that we can exit our business? And it doesn't have to be necessarily a big payday, although that's always nice. It could be, what if you became a passive investor in your business? And so there's some weird, I guess you'd call them paradoxes of the universe, right? On the one hand, we live in this infinite universe. You know, I was showing you that slide with Albert Einstein, right? So we live in a universe that is ever expanding. Yet on the other hand, our time and our perception of time is limited, right? You're going to be on this earth probably up to 70 to 120 years max, right? Out of that time, about 35 to 45 of it is probably good working career time at the most. So time is limited, right? Space is limited. There's only so much space. And so how do you create sales that lead to profits that then scale and then create a larger exit multiple? That's really the question here. And the answer is to take your experience and to take our experience plus your unique wisdom and combine them for growth. And when you do these things and you have the right experience, whether it's your own experience and your own unique wisdom or it's experience from others, and you combine them in such a way that it creates growth, your leverage becomes unlimited. And I think that that's really the coolest thing about entrepreneurial business, is that it all starts with an idea, and the idea grows, and then once the idea is shown to work, you can leverage it infinitely. And so the first thing you really want to be thinking about from your side of life is, what is your end game? And because there's different ways, you know, if you look ahead 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, there's a few different ways you can go. And it really is the concept of starting with the end in mind and then working your way backwards. And so you can, you know, maybe you have a good business that you like, you're happy right now, and you're just kind of curious about what we're talking about here today. You decide, you know what, I'm going to stay exactly the same and keep the same level of work, keep the same level of profit. Well, that kind of becomes like a Groundhog Day thing, and it doesn't always work because things change and stuff like that, but it is an option. I mean, you can just kind of, you know, grind away for 35 years doing the same level of work and profit. So it's your, like, every day is the same, and that's a model, and lots of people follow that model. You have another option of increasing cash flow and profits and doing it through hustle and grind. So just grind away, work a crap ton, you know, and just, you know, that maybe work yourself into the ground is a risk of that. Or you could sell. Okay, so now this gets a little bit different. Build up a business, and I'm currently doing this with an e-commerce business right now, where you find a business that is undervalued and has some problems, spend a couple of years fixing it up and cranking up the growth trajectory, get cash out of it in the meantime, and then do something else. Boom. That's a great model. Now, here's another great model, because what is freedom? Freedom's what to do with your time, right? And so I know that's something that that John has, is time freedom, and that's how we kind of hooked up. He's set up his life in a way so that he has something where he's the founder but not necessarily the operator, right? So why not set something up, get the wheel moving, suck cash out, and now you're a founder but not the operator. Now you're working a lot less, you're doing other exciting things, you've got the founder's badge, and you can go and do it again. And that's kind of a cool thing, and I want you to sort of just think about that as we go along, is if you do it once, you can do it again, and if you do it again, you get better at it, and it's a practice makes perfect thing. And so wherever you are is where you are, and you could be on any of these types of things, or if you are already practicing parallel entrepreneurialism, you might have one business where you're working on increasing the cash flow and profits, you might have another one where you're delegating and sucking the cash out. But my answer of what my end game is not your answer for what your end game is, and that's really the key. And so the key is to look in the mirror and consider that the person you're looking at is responsible for your happiness. I can't, obviously make you happy, even if I wanted to. Only you can make yourself happy. And that means your definition of success is whatever it is, and it's right. And if you don't like it, then you can change it, and that's the cool thing about it. And so let's think for a minute about entrepreneurialism and your own personal evolution here. And you can see on the left that so what I'm going to speak about is both a personal evolution that you're likely going through, but I'm also going to speak to more of a external environment business revolution that's going on right now. And you see here, this is just, I love this slide, because you see how a couple hundred years ago, in the days of like George Washington, there is a candle, and that's what you were lighting things up with. And then as time went on, Edison comes along, and we've got the incandescent light bulb. And then recently we've moved to like these compact fluorescent things. And then over on the right-hand side there, this fancy LED looking thing, that actually represents where a lot of these the next evolution is going, which is not just LED, but there's going to be a movement here in the next couple years where everywhere that you plug in a light, it's going to have Wi-Fi attached to it. And so it's just going to be kind of how right now when you walk into a room, you expect to be able to walk over and turn on the light. Well, I actually went to came home yesterday afternoon and had grabbed the kids from school, and we walked into the house, and the house seemed really, really quiet. And I walked around the corner, and it was really weird because I was like, why is the house so quiet? I go to flick on the light, and the light didn't come on because the power was out. We never have a power outage. It was weird, right? The kids were kind of freaked out. They're pretty young and not like scared or anything, but they were just like, this is bizarre. And so in the near future, it's going to be the same thing with Wi-Fi. If you see a light and you flick it on and there's not internet available in that same area, we're going to just think that's really weird. So that's not how it was. That's not how it is today. That's not how it was 5 years ago. Certainly not how it was, 15, 20 years ago when dial-up internet was a thing. But that's the evolution, right? And once something becomes accepted and understood, you really can't go back. And so let's talk for a moment about you. You've looked in the mirror, you've considered who you are, and this is a danger that I was speaking to earlier, and I want you to really get this. And this is the 90%. And the problem is that less than 10 out of 100 businesses can be sold. And of the 5 of those that will be sold, most of the, so half of the 10 that are sold will fail within 2 years. So that's a problem. Now you're down to 5 businesses. 3 of them will pay out less than anybody agreed, and then 1 will be bought back. So if you're doing math at home, and I hope you are, that means that there's 1 out of 100 businesses, basically, that will do a good deal for the owners, you, the entrepreneur, the founder, and the rest of them will have problems and not go as well as people would hope that they would. And that can be problematic because there are, why are you putting all this time and effort into building your business if it's not sellable, right? And again, I'm not even pushing you or implying that you should sell your business, but you want to build your business so it's sellable, because that means that it's running in a way that you can essentially have options, right? So I told you I was going to kind of show you some things on the evolution outside that are going on, right? And so this is recent market dynamics on Biz Buy Sell, and you'll see that top line there, the average sales price as a multiple of cash flow, it kind of keeps going down. And the reason for that is because more and more businesses continue to come to market every day, pretty much for the next 15, 16 years. And what's driving that are pure demographics. So the whole thing about that is that as that valuation starts to go down, it becomes even harder to be the 1 out of 100, right? The numbers are not working in your favor if you want to build on this. And so, earlier we were talking about your unique wisdom plus other people's experience. You'll see how it becomes important as we go along. If you want to get an average sales multiple of, 3, of 6, of 7, of 12, that there are some things that are going to need to be done, clearly, right? So, the perfect specimen, right? This always cracks me up. All right, is that really a diamond? Is it, a piece of, who knows what it is, right? Is it cubic zirconia? But is it a perfect specimen? Well, here's the thing. No business is perfect. No diamond is perfect, right? And because a lot of it's up to you. Like, no business will totally survive without you. There's weather cycles. There's things that happen, like the organic evolution of the Wi-Fi thing that I showed you, right? Things happen. So you have to innovate and continue to improve. You have to adapt fluidly. And you really want to produce consistent profit growth so that you don't have any headaches. And the trick is that, what happens if you're working on all that stuff all the time, it's very easy to get sucked into the siren song of being an entrepreneur and escaping from your corporate prison and becoming, what we'd call an executive entrepreneur. But then a couple years later, you look and you're like, oh, great. I just have another job. And, we all know what JOB stands for, J-O-B, just over broke, right? So a real question to ask yourself, and if I can maybe open up a little bit with you, a question I've had to ask myself in the past has been, am I self-employed, or did I just create a job for myself? And the trick is that most of the time, and this is almost true for 95 to almost 100% of self-employed people, they bought themselves a job. So there's almost unlimited risk to that. And so you start running and running, and you try to run faster because very, very early on, it works, right? If you put more elbow grease into the mix and you push harder, in the beginning it works. And you see this great growth trajectory, but what will happen is that eventually you end up on the treadmill, or could it be a dreadmill, right? So kind of silly, right? And so I see that there's some questions coming in. I think I'm going to get all those answered, and if they're not answered through the process of the webinar, we'll answer them at the end. I'll be happy to. And so good questions, keep them coming. I'm seeing them come through, and I'll make sure they get answered. And so we start as self-employed, right? And our biggest leverage point is just our straight up hustle. And what you really want to be is that guy with the infinite leverage stick, right? So that's an investor, but what are you? Are you really an investor? Do you invest time, expertise, and sweat? Do you view it as an investment to pay you back? Do you view it as a kind of a ways to means to a lifestyle? Do you view it as an asset class? How do you view investing? Because as you look in the mirror, your success as an investor might be different than my success, might be different than Bernardo's success on this line, might be different than John's success, right? There's different levels of success in how you define these things. And so you want to figure out, you're going to invest time, expertise, and sweat. You're an entrepreneur. But what are you really investing in? And what you hear a lot in the entrepreneurial community is, oh, I give 110%, right? And I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. This whole thing. And it's just stop, okay? There is no 110%. And so there's 100%, right? That's all there is. And I don't want to be, mean about it, but that's all there is. And then think about it, right? So let's do the math real quick. So 100% is all there is. That's just all there is. 30% is spent sleeping, excrementing, doing the other things. So if all you did was work, showering, shaving, right? If all you did was work, 70% is all there would be. So, but that's not all you did, right? You've got to eat, you got to live, you want to have, you know, your life. So how much is really left for business? And I find when I, share this with people that most of us haven't really done the math. And we have to do the math because in order to become an investor in ourselves and in our business and get the results that we want, we have to track what we're doing. We have to come in and have accurate thinking about what's going on. And to create this leverage, we have to know our numbers. And so 25% is all that's left if you do the math. And so, what if it were only 5%, right? So first of all, I want to stop here and think about this for a second. So 25% of your 100% available time is the maximum that anybody's going to be able to give to a business. So even Gary Vaynerchuk, who is the crazy hustle guy, never sleeps, just hustles all the time. If you do the math on his life, he's still got 25% of all of his days walking this earth, this blue globe, to devote to his business. So that means that extraordinary entrepreneurs still are putting a quarter of their time towards the business. So 100% equals 25%. Now here's the question. What if you're able to only devote 5%? So that would be 20% of your 100% available time, if you're following my math, on your business. What if you only had 5% of your time to devote to one of your companies? Well, that's the premise that's posed in a book called The 40-Hour Work Year. Highly, highly recommended. Don't go get it now, but I can send you a link later if you want. But what if you created your own portfolio companies out of your entrepreneurial companies? Well, that's a different situation, right? But you say, you know what? I want to work a lot. Okay, cool. Work on 5 companies at the same time at 5% each. So instead of 25% all on the same company, like this lady I was talking to a couple days ago, she's like, I'm still working on the startup. I sold a bunch of stuff so that I can just focus on this, and I'm just going to work 18 hours a day on nothing but the startup. I'm sitting there thinking, well, why don't you have your hands in like 2 startups and 2 operational companies and maybe an investment? That, to me, sounds better. Now, I'm not saying that's right for you. I'm saying that's right for me. So why not? But why not work on 5 companies at 5% each? And so we get into understanding the time value of money now as investors, right? So doing the math on what really makes sense to you and what really makes sense as an investor. And the idea here is back to the Peter Drucker, what gets measured gets managed, what gets managed gets improved, and then moving into sort of a Kaizen approach, right? Toyota is so successful because of their Kaizen approach. Kaizen is continuous improvement, right? So if you understand your time value of money, that's like your traditional way to measure things. Well, what if we did it this way? What about the money value of time? So in the previous thought process, we would talk about return on investment, right? Well, what if we think of it this way? What about the money value of time? Because you're an entrepreneur, you invest your time, you invested your time in gaining knowledge, you invested your time in personal development to be brave enough to be an entrepreneur, you invested your time in reading books and staying up on the marketplace and building the business and putting systems in place, and then, oh, by the way, you also invested a whole bunch of your money, right? You invested your opportunity cost. That's an investment of money. It may never show up anywhere on a spreadsheet unless you put it there, but that's an investment of money. So what if you focus instead on your return on invested time? So now the question becomes, how do I take that 5% and create 100% of results out of my 5% of effort? My return on invested time becomes exponential. And so I want to show you sort of what this starts to look like as you take these concepts and start to build them out. And I want you to keep in mind too that you're talking with someone who has recently gone through this evolution. And so it's very hot on my mind, having just come over the bridge the last few years versus being the guy who had bought himself a job. And so this is the construct of a winner now. And so at the beginning of the business, you're strategizing, you're executing, you're getting things going, right? Well, once you know that things are going to work, then you start to systematize the business. You start to delegate, right? And you start to create that time wealth, that time freedom a little bit. And then you move into more of an inspection and management and feedback loop, and your job is to lead. Well, okay, looks good so far, makes sense. But what's next? You've freed up your time. So now we move on to business number 2. And we do the same cycle again. We strategize, we execute, we systematize, we delegate, we do the inspections and the feedback, we lead. And as we go here, all of a sudden what happens is you free up that time and you start working on biz number 2, biz number 3, biz number 4. And that's if you're the guy who wants to work a lot. Maybe biz number 4 is I go skiing a lot. And I told you guys at the beginning of this, the skiing, that's the hobby that gets me excited. And I'm sure you have a hobby, whether it's boating or it might just be long walks on the beach, or it might be, race car driving. The point is that that's your thing, and that's awesome. And so I was sitting down with a friend of mine named Scott a couple months ago, and Scott is a little bit further along in this journey than I am even. And Scott is awesome because he's working on biz number 3 right now, and biz number 1 is fully automated, kicking off a bunch of stuff. Biz number 2 is pretty much there. And so he's starting to crank up biz number 3. And instead of talking about the business, though, what we talked about was how he made more money than he had ever made before in a single month in March. And he also went skiing 26 days. Well, the last time I checked, there's usually only 30 or 31 days in a month, and here we are. This guy's making more money than he's made in a month, and he's skiing almost every single day. Now, if this philosophy, whether it's skiing or walking or laying on the beach or whatever, if that doesn't get you excited about this philosophy, I really don't know what could, right? And so what you create for yourself is this really sweet scenario where you're leveraging your cash flow. And so if you remember the return on invested time, so if you've got 75% of your cash flow from one business, but you're only spending 5% of your time, start to add this up a little bit. And you might even take out a piece of paper for a second and just kind of do some quick back-of-the-envelope math here. But you get 75% of the cash flow from another business, 75% from another, 75% from another. Pretty soon, you're working the same amount of time. And so that's your return on invested time, but you're making 375% of your current income. Just going to let that sink in for a second. So your income has already increased by 375%. Well, now what happens? Okay, there it is growing, but what if you regularly increase your cash flow there, and you see it kind of going, kind of working its way up there through month 1 through month 12? Well, look at a jump in month 13. What is that? Well, that's your liquidity event. That's your exit of the business, or starting to sell out of part of it, right? That's when you sell some shares and go boop, boop. It doesn't take very many of these to be in a dramatically different place than you were prior. And that's really what I wanted to share with you here today, is look at what you can do as you start to put this concept into place for yourself. Look what you can do as you start to grow your business this way. And it's a strategic perspective, and it really is a mindset shift, and it is literally something that less than 1% of people understand. And politics aside, if you want to live like the 1%, then you have to get around people who are living like the 1% and have created that situation for themselves. And it's a very counterintuitive thing in many respects from what the startup entrepreneur has or what the 100% serial entrepreneur has. It's a different way to look at things, and it's important to first expose yourself to the thought process, but then consider how you can start to put it into your own life and put it into your business. And this is really where the key question starts to come around. Can you let go? So here's our guy on the one treadmill, right? Can you let go of one treadmill or more than one treadmill? So how do you think of yourself? And you remember when I was showing you that person looking in the mirror and I said, you as an investor, you as a business person, your definition of success is not the same as anybody else's. It's yours and yours only. So the question is, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as the treadmill person forever? Or the dreadmill person forever? Or do you see yourself as someone who's evolving like the light bulbs into the chairperson, into the operator? And the thing is you have to let go of some stuff, and 80% of how good you would do it is good enough for somebody else to do it. And nobody in your business is going to do as well at anything that you've done, right? I mean, no one's as good as you. It's your business, and it, you know, it's tough, and you got to let it go. But it's important that you do that because your freedom's at stake. And so, good enough is good enough. And I told you recently that I went through an evolution, and it was a few years ago now. But I remember the first time that I went from the guy who sold something to having to deliver that to then having to support it afterwards. And a lot of what we do is we help businesses grow on the internet. And so, you know, it was everything from helping them figure out their marketing strategy to building it all out and then supporting it and measuring and improving it going forward, right? And so years and years ago, that was all Wally all the time. And you know, I told you that on the internet I'm known as Wally the web guy, right? I mean, the brand was built around this one dude and this character that we created, right? Well, that's not the case anymore. I remember that first project letting that stuff go, and it was like ripping a baby from my hands. I mean, it was tough. But once I got over the hump of 80% is good enough and that nobody's as good as I'm going to do it, at least, you know, in my own business, then all of a sudden you can take on 3, 4, 5, 6 projects in the same amount of time, and all sorts of things start to open up for you. And that is one of the biggest takeaways that I want you to understand, is that finding things to give away to build that time and space, even if it's just the head space to begin, is super important, and it's how you plant the seeds of your next evolution. And so let's look at the circle of execution. What does that look like as far as what do you have to do, right? So first thing, well, let's just start at the top, right? Set yourself tough deadlines, right? Be aggressive with yourself. If you're a business person, I mean, I know that the fact that you're here investing some time with me, that you are the type of person that sets yourself tough deadlines and you know, pushes to grow your business. And then, so the next thing is you focus. And you know, if you focus, or you're bogus, that's what we always say around here. And you get it done, right? You eliminate distractions. You don't build things when you don't have to. So, you know, you don't go build a CRM from scratch. You use WordPress. Or did I say CRM? CMS. You know, you go out, you go to where the problem is, and then you sell, and you make money with the problem solution, not with the extra service, right? So, and then continue and repeat and rinse and repeat. And then the hardest part, if you love it, let it go. But that's victory. That's victory. That's how we do these things. And so I see there's a bunch of questions here. I'm going to just peek at that super. And super cool. Super cool. We got some people who are pumped. Well, you should be pumped because basically how you do this is it comes from the inside out. And so you look in the mirror and you figure out what you want to do. What is your definition of success? And I really want you to do that. I want you to think of where do you want to be 90 days from now, 120 days from now? Where do you want to be a year from now? I want this to be the moment where, hey, look, you met Wally Waldron and everything was different afterwards, right? And that's not going to be the case for everybody here today, but there will be a select few of you who look at this years from now and say, that was a turning point and that was awesome. And so how do we do that? Well, we work on kind of fixing from the inside out, and it's really all about you. And how do we get things, how do we set up a success environment and help you execute? There's one person here who I know is working on doubling his business and thinks he has a way to do that. Well, a lot of times businesses need to double, but what if you need cash along the way? You want to have that available to you, and you want to make sure that you have a way to be coached properly on exit. And really the whole thing here is to know that when you need to make that phone call, you have somebody to call. And this is not your normal game that we're trying to play here, right? This is the game of the 1%. And so what I would like to do here now is share something with you, and I think you're really going to like this, and it's going to be pretty awesome. And for a select few of you, may even be something that you take me up on. And so this is the process of the Built to Scale Parallel Entrepreneur Mastermind and Retreat. And so what we've described here today is the Built to Scale Parallel Entrepreneur. That's who I want you to become. And the process that I shared with you is called the Built to Scale process. And the whole idea here is that I know that you as an entrepreneur can unlock the scale that's trapped in your business. And I know that with a little bit of time looking at your business that you are going to be able to double it, you're going to be able to triple it, and move into passive parallel entrepreneurialism. And so you see here, this, there I am on the left with folks smiling and a whole bunch of stuff around us, and there's Jason on the right there teaching some good stuff. And what we've created is a way to get a few people into the room together and go through an intimate process that is also battle tested, and work with others in the room and work with us to take you from unscalable to scalable, and to take you from serial entrepreneur to entrepreneur. And so what we've done is we've taken this big concept. This has been done for over 200 companies. We've taken it to divisions and departments, and we're talking like Fortune 500 type stuff, and figured out how to distill it into something where it's a pound of strategy and mostly execution. And so everybody has your own goals. You have your own goals. I have my own goals. And the whole idea is to help you figure out how to get more time or more money or more growth depending on where you are. And the key is to help you get crystal clear and moving into the direction that you want, and work collaboratively. And so move beyond serial entrepreneur, move beyond a person who's created a job for themselves, and move into parallel entrepreneur, and get clear about what you want, why you want it, how you can get it, and walk out of there with some real assets. And so what we're doing is we're putting together some 3-day events, and I'll tell you about the venues here in a second, but we're talking places where, we're talking wine country, right? We're talking high-end retreats. We're talking private chefs. We're talking incredible people in a relaxed setting, incredible location, intense clarity. And think about why you go to a retreat, right? You go to get away from it all first and foremost. And oftentimes that's where the best ideas happen. I'm a Colorado guy, so we always go on long hikes all the way up to the top of the mountain, and then we just go and think. And so we call that headspace around here. I know a lot of Florida guys who go and they do their, I'm just going to go fishing and look at the ocean and watch a sunset. But the idea is to get away for a couple days and get intense clarity in an environment that helps you get 100% alignment with your goals, help you scale up, scale out, and go parallel. And I know you can accomplish more than you ever could before. So you walk out of there ready to take radical action, and you have an asset now, which is your amazing network. And I'm a huge believer in your net worth is equal to your network. And so we've created a situation where we bring everybody together. And so under normal circumstances, when you do these one-on-one, I mentioned how this has been done 200 plus times in Fortune 500 companies. You're going to be asked to invest $7,500 up to $25,000 to get our built to scale team in the room with you. And that's just not what we were trying to do with this. We want to get entrepreneurs into a room together and create some great results. And so that's obviously not going to be what we ask to invest in this whole thing. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the events here in a second, but I want you to think now for a second. We've talked about going from serial entrepreneur to entrepreneur, and we've talked about what geometric wealth looks like in a sense of growing your actual wealth and your cash flow. We've also talked about what it looks like from the perspective of starting a business and getting it systematized, and then starting another business and starting another business and moving from serial to parallel. We've talked about the evolution of yourself internally. We've talked about the evolution of yourself externally and the environment around us. We've talked about the challenges of selling at top dollar and how rare it is to actually create that. And we've talked about how important it is to really look in the mirror and figure out what your end game is. So before we move forward, I want you to think about all that and consider that as we go away here today, you're going to have some action items, right? You want to assess your current systemization, your delegation, your inspection issues. You got to start letting go of stuff. 80% is good enough. And address those right away, focus on execution, and build an even more agile culture. Then explore some scale out scenarios. And what does that look like? And so what happens after exit? Well, I was sharing with you a story, and I promised I would share the remainder of the story. So a couple of years ago, we were doing a lunch event in Denver, and it was in the tech center area. And so you get a lot of guys who are in the tech area. And I told you, that's the world I play in, right? Take marketing, technology, merge them into situations where people have these great events. And so there was this guy who was kind of hanging out somewhere in the middle of the room, maybe a little bit towards the back, and he just had this calmness about him. And I mean, the only way I can really describe it is if you've ever seen, it's not really a smirk, but it's kind of just like this knowing, partial smile that people get when they feel like they know something that nobody else in the room knows. Well, this guy kind of had that vibe about him, and I struck up a conversation with him and was asking him what was going on, and it turned out that he had just very recently exited his business for multiple millions of dollars, and he was probably mid-50s, pretty calm place is where he was. I mean, he didn't seem stressed. He was very relieved, and you could tell he was just sort of listening and observing, wondering what his next move was. And I thought that was really cool, the calmness they had and the clarity they had in that moment. And that's really what turns me on and what I want to create for you guys. And so I promised also to show you a little bit more about CXO Collective and Jason Myers. And so this is actually how CXO Collective, which Jason co-founded, is set up right now, and so you see that there's a group of portfolio companies here, and you see the external direct investors. you could really probably draw about 100 or 75 of those as far as angel investors. And there's a whole portfolio of companies here. And so, Jason is the founder of CXO Collective, and there's a portfolio of companies that are in various stages of growth or, passivity. And he's off helping other companies grow, and CXO is actually always looking to add to their portfolio, and so that's a possible place for people to exit. And I just want to show you that because it's something that exists, and it's real, and it's the genius model in action, and it's something that you can actually participate in, and that's huge, really. To have access to 75 angel investors, to have access to a possible place to exit right out of the gate, and more importantly, to have access to the knowledge to set yourself up the right way. And so that's what we're talking about, and that's what we're going to do at the Parallel Entrepreneur Mastermind and Retreats. And so we have the 3-day Mastermind Retreat at these incredible venues, private chef, amazing people. We're going to take radical action together, just bring in great people together in an incredible location and make awesome stuff happen. We'll bring you through what we call the Built to Scale system. You'll walk out of there with intense clarity, 100% alignment up with your goals. If you want to scale up, you'll do that. Scale out, you do that. Go parallel with us, and set you up for more than you ever knew you could do. And so the next ones that are coming up here are August 26th and 28th in 2016. And so that's Napa Valley. That's the one up top there. And these are not the exact location, but that was the best picture I could find nearby. We've got Jackson Hole in the fall coming up, and we are going to try to find that lake. I will tell you that. Look at that. And then we've got Florida coming up as well. And so these are all limited to 6 people total, and we already have folks that are signed up for these. So John was gracious enough to introduce us and bring us in here. So we've arranged that you can actually do a $5,000 group 3-day event to come to the Mastermind and Retreat, and you'll get infinite return on investment, of course, because you've seen how the model works now. If you put the model into place, you'll be on the other side because it's the return on invested time. So a small investment of money up front, a small investment of your time, infinite return on the other side. And so we'll be there with you. Jason Myers, the Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Fortune 50 executive, creator of the Built to Scale process. Myself, I'll be there helping you facilitate, helping you get to the other side of your journey. And this is what I want you to do is, if you're interested in this, we're not just taking anyone. I need to have a conversation with you. And we're looking for good fits. We're looking for people who are both ready, willing, and able to invest. But more importantly, we're working to create rooms of harmonious individuals. And so we have people who are in the personal coaching space. We have people who are in the software space. We have people who are looking to help their family business grow to the 3rd generation. We have people who are in the manufacturing space. And so all of these different types of businesses are looking to get together in the room, and we have room for a few more. And so I want you to go to internetsalesstampede.com/scale and just fill out the form there. And I want to know a little bit more about you and your business and find out if it is something that's right for you. That's really about it. We're looking for people who are ready to play this game with us. And I love making introductions to our group of investors. I love helping businesses grow, and I love finding new people to add to my Rolodex and hooking great people up. So that's really where we're at. If this is for you, go ahead and shoot me a note real quick. Do the internetsalesstampede.com/scale, and I'm really going to look forward to that. And it looks like I put the wrong dates up there on that one. So those are a couple that we just did. And so, yeah, internetsalesstampede.com/scale. I'll show you what that looks like here real quick. You will actually just go and see a quick little form here, nothing fancy, and just looking for your name, your email, your URL, your phone number, and let me know one thing I should know about you or your business. And that's about it. We're going to look forward to seeing you in these awesome places here, and really just get this thing going. So I appreciate your time. I'm going to try to keep it to the hour here. I want to respect your time and help you get going on that return of invested time. So internetsalesstampede.com/scale. We'll have a quick chat, make sure you're a good fit, and then get you signed up for the next retreat that lines up with your schedule. So looking forward to talking with you here in person, looking forward to seeing you in person, and I'm really looking forward to celebrating with you here in the next 2 to 3 years as you go parallel and start to grow your business. So thanks for your time today, and look forward to talking with you real soon.